The room was silent, save for the rhythmic tick of the old grandfather clock in the corner. Charlotte sat cross-legged on the worn armchair, her fingers idly tracing the spine of a leather-bound book she'd long since lost interest in. Outside, the storm raged, battering the house with rain and howling wind. The windows rattled in their frames like restless spirits demanding entry. The power had gone out hours ago, plunging the house into darkness, save for the flickering glow of a few scattered candles. Charlotte had come here to escape the city. Her aunt's secluded country home seemed like the perfect refuge. But tonight, the isolation felt suffocating. A sudden knock at the window shattered the fragile quiet. Charlotte froze, her heart leaping into her throat. She glanced at the large bay window behind her. The curtains were drawn, but she could hear it. A soft, deliberate tap, tap, tap against the glass. It's the wind, she told herself. But her body betrayed her, muscles coiled like a spring. The tapping stopped. Silence returned, but it was the kind of silence that presses against your ears, demanding attention. Charlotte exhaled shakily and reached for her phone, only to remember it had died hours ago. Then the voice came. "Charlotte!" It was a whisper, faint but unmistakable. Her head whipped around to the window. The voice had come from outside. Or had it? The sound seemed to echo as though it had been spoken right into her ear. "Charlotte, don't look out the window." The room plunged into a suffocating stillness. Her breath came in shallow bursts, her skin prickling with cold sweat. The voice was calm, almost soothing, but something about it made her stomach churn. "Who's there?" she managed to croak, her voice barely audible over the pounding rain. No answer. Charlotte stood, every instinct screaming at her to run, but her legs felt like lead. She inched toward the window, her hand trembling as she reached for the curtain. "Don't!" The single word, spoken louder this time, made her hand jerk back as though the fabric had burned her. "Who are you?" she demanded, trying to summon some semblance of courage. No response, just the relentless wind and rain. She backed away, her mind racing. It had to be a prank. Maybe some local kids messing around. But how would they know her name? The knock came again, louder this time, as though something solid was ramming against the glass. Her heart thundered in her chest. And then, silence. Charlotte stared at the window, her breath hitching. A moment later, the clock chimed. She jumped, her pulse pounding in her ears. When the chime faded, she heard it. A soft, wet sound, like footsteps squelching through mud. The sound wasn't outside. It was inside. Charlotte's eyes darted to the shadows pooling in the corners of the room. She grabbed the nearest object, a brass candlestick, and clutched it tightly. "Who's there?" she called out, her voice cracking. Nothing, just the sound of her ragged breathing. The squelching grew louder, closer, and she realized it wasn't coming from the corners. It was coming from behind her. Her entire body went rigid as a chill breath brushed the back of her neck. Slowly, she turned her head. Nothing was there. But then she heard it again, soft and unmistakable. "Don't look out the window." The whisper was right behind her, so close she could feel the words skimming her skin. Charlotte screamed, whipping around and swinging the candlestick blindly. It connected with nothing, and she stumbled back, her heel catching on the edge of the rug. She fell hard, the candle tumbling from the table and plunging the room into darkness. The storm outside intensified, lightning flashing bright enough to momentarily illuminate the room. And that's when she saw it. A face at the window, pale, twisted, with hollow eyes that seemed to bore straight into her soul. It wasn't human. Charlotte scrambled backward, her hands clawing at the floor. Another flash of lightning, and the face was gone. "No, no, no," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. She dared not move, her gaze fixed on the window. Minutes felt like hours, and the storm continued its relentless assault. But then, in the deafening quiet between thunderclaps, she heard a creak. It wasn't the wind. It was the sound of the window latch unlocking. Her stomach dropped as she realized what was happening. She wanted to scream, to run, but terror kept her rooted to the spot. The window slid open with agonizing slowness, the cold night air rushing in. And then she saw it. Long skeletal fingers curled over the windowsill, followed by a hunched figure that seemed to seep into the room like smoke. Its head tilted unnaturally, its neck bending at an impossible angle. Charlotte's mind screamed for her to look away, but she couldn't. The creature's hollow eyes locked onto hers, and a grotesque smile split its face. In one swift motion, it lunged at her, its mouth stretching impossibly wide,